going to get that message. I think you get a message now, don't you? Yeah, okay. And then we're good to go. Let's see, I got to change camera. There we are. So bringing ourselves into equal standing with the inside edges of the feet close together. We'll have the big toes pointed forward. Take a moment to balance the weight through the soles of the feet. And coming up the legs, engage the muscles onto the leg bones. We're going to come into the hips and we're going to sink the tailbone. Just bring a bit of energy as we do that into the core body, low abdomen. And then let's use the hands, and we'll start just running the palms, just a little bit of pressure over the core, going down onto the thighs and coming up around the diaphragm. Okay, let's draw the hands right up the center. We'll come up around the collarbones and slide the hands sideways. We'll get one hand sliding above the collarbone, the lower hand sliding into the armpit. Again, just looking for gentle pressure here. Now, this hand that slides up, slide it up around the base of the neck, kind of that zone that's the shoulder, base of the neck. We'll take our head to one side, away from the hand. And now let's take both hands up, and we'll just initially rubbing on the side of the neck around to the back, rubbing up to the base of the skull and coming down. And when you're ready, just bringing the fingers now onto the backs of the shoulders and drawing down over the shoulders, across the collarbones, and just exploring where we can take the hands here. And then maybe just get the hands one at a time. We'll work around the tops of the collarbones up onto the base of the throat. Again, just that gentle pressure. And taking the time, we'll kind of stroke outwards from the center, outwards. And then let's come below the collarbone. It's really easiest here, one hand at a time. And use the heel of the palm. We can get a nice gentle pressure out of the heel of the palm. And then let's take that, we'll lift one elbow, take that hand into the armpit and just rubbing smoothly. Get both sides as we're ready. Okay. And then when we're ready, we'll just kind of finish off. We'll run the fingers down the center line, come into the low belly. And when we're ready with an inhale, we'll take the arms up the center, lift the elbows, pull the shoulders and release the arms up, just reaching where it's comfortable for our shoulders. Keeping ourselves tall for our exhale. Now letting our gaze go up, letting the chest lift here as we finish that inhale. So on the in-breath, as we're ending here, we're looking up. As the arms come down, we'll end up with the face just comfortably forward, but have the eyes look down. We'll get one more just like this. Okay, let's add some more movement with our next exhalation. So as the arms descend, let's also bend the knees, drop the hips, and just ease over. Let the back release. And allowing the head to hang. And then we'll take the hands onto the low legs, above and below the ankles. Again, we're just rubbing. And coming up the legs, we'll get up around the knees and above and below. Again, we're just rubbing here. And now let's make our way all the way up. As we're ready to, hands running up the legs, we'll come up the thighs, we'll bring ourselves taller. The fingers end up low on the hips and up our center line again. We'll take the gaze up as we reach. And now when we're ready to exhale, looking forward, swing the arms forward, about shoulder height and push out. Knees are soft and we'll release over again. Give the head a chance to hang. And then when we're ready to come up, bring the hands onto the legs and just run the hands up the legs as we come tall and come into the belly and keep going up. And we'll do that same cycle again on the exhale, initially pushing out. So we reach out through the upper back and then melt over. And bringing ourselves up with the breath, going tall again. Releasing over by pushing forward on our out breath, melting ourselves over. Let's stay a little longer here. And again, we'll rub the hands over the legs, starting around the ankles, coming up over the calves, around the knees. And let's come up the backs of the thighs. And when we're ready, we'll use an inhale to come up. As we bring the hands up, we'll also lift ourselves up. And once we're tall, we'll just pause with the hands working at the tops of the thighs, around the low belly. And then from here, for a full inhale, up our center line. And now let's stay tall as we make our exhalation. And then when we're done here, we're going to sink the knees down, knees touch, hands just above the knees, and have a circle through the knees, down into the heels, up into the hips. Just nudging the belly back into the hips, dropping the tailbone. Circling the knees in both directions. Letting the ankles move freely. And then coming into the center. And keep weight on the legs from the hands. Drop the hips a little lower. See if you can tuck the hips under and push the vertebra back. We're also going to lift at the neck and press vertebra backward. And when it's time to breathe in, move the hips back now. Lift the chest up and forward, reach up along the back of the neck, and then just tip the tailbone in a little bit. Find that energy in the low belly. And when we're ready with an exhale, we'll reverse the spine again, moving the hips under, pressing our vertebra back. And then let's come tall. When we're ready with an inhale, we'll bring the hands up the center line, draw ourselves up, have the elbows pull up the shoulders, and then release the arms where they're comfortable. And we'll stay tall when we're exhaling. Okay. So have that feeling of taking the weight of the shoulders off of the ribs. And from there, we'll take our feet a little wider apart about, think of the heels under the hip sockets. We'll have the hands here on the hips. And with the exhale, take the right side back, look behind and release the right arm, pointing straight back from the shoulder. With the inhale, reach up, turning forward, and then run this hand down the opposite side of the body as we breathe out. Release the head and neck, and bring the hand up on the right side as you inhale, coming up tall. And then the left side, looking back, reaching behind, then reaching up with the in-breath. Taking the hand down the opposite side as we breathe out. And going smoothly with the breath. Now let's do our last cycle. So we'll end with the left side. And once we're back tall, just take a moment to feel the feet and get the weight even through the soles of the feet. We'll keep the hands on the hips, we'll bend the knees, get a feeling of sinking down through the sacrum. We'll go right into a hip circle. When we're ready, we'll switch our direction. And let's make sure we get both directions, a couple of changes. And then let's come into the center point for a moment. And now we'll make a figure 8. So loop the hips to one side, through the center, loop to the other. And let that looping motion work up the back, down the legs. And when you come into center, switch the direction. And then let's ease back into center, but just a couple of times, one side, then the other, really sending the hips to the side, leaning away from that hip and moving the head toward the center line. Okay. And then we'll just come back into the middle. Now slide the hands down the legs, weight through the palms, hips are back. And let's do one more circle. So base of the ribs, our diaphragm, see if you can circle around the spine. Remembering we want to switch our direction every so often. And when it feels balanced, when we feel we've done both directions equally, we'll just pause here in the center, keeping weight through the hands. We're going to move the hips underneath and press the vertebra back. Lift up through the neck as we tuck the chin. When it's an in-breath, move the hips back, lift the ribs, reach up along the neck. And when we've got our hips back, let's just tip the tailbone in. And then when it's an exhale, reversing the back again, the hips come underneath, we push our vertebra back. And switching again for the in-breath. And on the out-breath, let the hips move under, press vertebra back. And then once we find this position, on a fresh exhale, slide the hands down the legs. We're going to release over. Let the head drop. And then let's come all the way up. So when we're ready coming up, it's an in-breath and run the hands up the legs, up the center line. Elbows are going to pull up the shoulders and release the arms. And let's keep ourselves tall when we get our exhalation. Okay, so I'm going to come to the end of the mat so that we can step back. So we just want to position ourselves so we've got a good angle here. When we're ready to, all we're going to do is take one leg and just step it back. So the front knee will naturally bend, and then step that leg forward again, and then take the other leg back. So initially, we're letting the leg that goes back stay straight. And that leg that goes back, that foot, see if you can plant the foot. Just be aware of the weight down the leg into the foot. Okay, so last set with the leg straight. And now, when you're ready to start again, take the leg back, take it straight, but now kind of right away, lift the heel and then bend the knee and then straighten up again. And initially we'll put the leg straight again and then step back. And we'll go to the other side. We'll take the leg back, then we'll drop the knee. We'll come back up to the heel and then step forward. Now, let's give the arms a job rather than have them just by the side. Let's take the hands up so the fingers are up on the breastbone, on the sternum. And then just consider making it a little simpler. When you step back, go right into that lunge position with the heel off the ground. And then just see if we can just go right into lowering the knee. So we'll take a pause. When we're ready, we'll just take a moment with just our basic standing place. And then when we're ready to start again, we'll take the hands up on the sternum, we'll take a leg back, drop the knee, and then rather than step forward, swing to the side. And then from there, swing back, and then step up. So we take a foot back, we bend the knee down, then that back knee swings outward. And then to get to the front again, we drop the back knee and turn the hips and step up. And we want to find for ourselves just this nice flowing rhythm. We want to give the body a chance to respond, to find the place. We want to keep the balance. And of course, we can step back to the end of the mat we started from, or we can turn it into kind of a circling motion and take ourselves from one end of the mat to the other. Okay, so let's say we're doing our last, we'll call that evolution there. So let's play with a few more step backs, but let's give ourselves a different starting position. So as you're ready, use an inhale and reach up, sweep the arms wide, lift up for the ceiling. So push the palms up, take the gaze up. And when you're ready with your exhale, soften the knees, reaching wide, melting over. We're going to drop the head, bend the knees enough so you can touch fingertips to the mat. So we're going to keep the fingertips in connection with the mat, and then just take one leg back and let the knee sink down. And then let's step right back up again. And once you step up, bend the knees, take the other leg back, sink the knee down, and then step again, bringing both feet back up. Let's play a little bit here, going side to side. So the leg that goes back, we're going to bend the knee and just lightly land it on the mat, and then lift it and come forward again. Okay, let's slow this down. So the first leg you sent back in this position, when that leg goes back, just hold it back. And initially we're going to be in a long lunge. So let's we'll come off our fingertips. Let's make fists. We'll put the fists down. We'll have a straight wrist. So there's some weight here on the hands, and with some of the weight off the front leg, see if you can let the front knee go a bit further forward. And then lift the hips up. And as you lift the hips, let that front leg straighten a bit. And the hips come up and they're going to move backward. And we'll just look back for that back foot. And then let's leave this place by bending the front knee forward. And when it's a good time, just step that back leg up. Now let the knees bend when we're here at the front. And we're going to step the other foot back. So we'll keep the knee off the ground this time. We've got weight on our hands. And we'll let the front knee bend forward. And now let's move the hips up and backward. They lift in the air, they work back. The front leg will straighten to whatever amount it is. And we're going to look toward the back foot. And then allow the front knee to move forward again. And bring the back foot up when you're ready. And we'll stay low, come onto fingertips, and now straighten up both legs and just let the head drop over. Let the back release. We don't have to have the legs straight. Okay, bend both knees, lower the hips, put the hands where they can take some weight, and take the first leg back again. And now we're going to put that back knee all the way down on the mat. So whichever leg is back, the hand from that side of the body stays in contact with the mat, and then the other hand, the hand that goes with the front leg, reaches up for the ceiling. Now press evenly on the front foot. Lengthen the neck. As you look up, make sure the neck is extended. When we say look at the ceiling, we're really meaning looking upward, keeping the neck feeling open. And then the arm in the air, bring it back down on the mat, put some weight on that hand, and then take the other arm up into the air. And then let's take that arm down. With weight on the hands, we'll lift the back knee. And with an exhale, we'll step to the front. Now just make sure the neck is relaxed, and pretty much right away, take the other foot back. We'll put the knee down. So front foot, that's the hand we're going to reach up, keeping our neck long. And let's take that hand back down. We'll have some weight through the hand, and we'll lift the other arm up. And then let's take both arms down. We'll have some weight. We'll lift the back knee. We'll step to the front. Let's again straighten our legs and just drop the head. Okay, now when we're ready, bending the knees, taking the leg back, put that back knee on the ground. And now the front knee, just reach it forward. So without straining at the ankle, be careful with the ankle, but if possible, let that front knee go out over the toes, out past the toes. And now let's go in the opposite direction. So now the back foot, we've got the toes tucked under, and we're going to move the hips back toward that back foot. The hands will walk back as the hips move back. And at some point, we can bring the front foot off the ground, just the heel touching the mat. And then in that position, push forward through the heel so the leg is straighter. And then just working with the weight coming into the hands, drop the head down toward that knee. Okay, now lift the head. Walk the hands forward, let that front foot touch down. So we've got a longer distance now between the front foot and the back knee. And we're going to see if we can gently walk the hands forward. The weight's going to shift through that back knee. Be alert to keeping it comfortable. And we'll just come again as far forward as works for our joints, allowing the weight of the hips to drop down. And now we're going to leave this place. So lift the back knee, gives us a long lunge. Get the hands ready, and on an exhale, lift the hips and bring that back foot up. And then take a moment with the legs straight, the head dropped. And on an exhale, let's take the other leg back. And we'll put the knee down. We're going to start by allowing the front knee to move more forward. And then reversing direction. So we're going to take the hips backward and let the hands walk back as the hips move back. And we get to the point where the weight comes off the front foot. We just keep the front heel on the ground and we push the heel forward. And then we're going to melt down toward that straight leg. Okay, and lifting the head, we're going to walk the hands forward, shift the weight forward, and that front foot, it's flat on the mat at some point. We give ourselves this long lunge position with the knee moving forward. And then we'll step back up. So lifting the back knee, bring the hips up, bring that leg forward, let the head hang with the legs straight. And then bending the knees. We're going to come back for the lunge again. We're going to put the back knee on the ground. And now this time, we're going to bring both hands up onto the front thigh. So in this position, we want the back hip above the knee, the back toes tucked under. On our front leg, we're going to keep the ankle below the knee. And then drop the tailbone. Get a feeling of the sacrum being vertical. Lift up along the back body. Press a bit of weight into the front foot. So gently pressing on the front foot, pull the heel back toward the center line of the body. And now let's release the arms. And when we're ready with an inhale, let's take the arms all the way up alongside the ears. We're going to rotate the arms. We'll push up through the palms. Press on that front foot, drawing the foot toward the hip. And then the front leg, lower that arm down to shoulder height. Keep the arm rotated as you press forward in the palm. We want to push forward through the hand without leaning forward. And we push up with one hand, push out with the other. Keeping the neck long, really lift up to the base of the skull and let the eyes rest down. And now let's bring both arms down to shoulder height, pressing forward, moving our shoulder blades, and at the same time, lifting tall, still dropping our tailbone. And now from here, just turn the body toward the back leg side. The whole torso turns about 45 degrees. And just pausing here for a moment, just pressing out. And then back to the front. And then our last move, just make the wrists flat, so palms face up. And then the arm, the back arm, bend the elbow, take that arm back. So on that back arm with the elbow bent, the palm, of course, isn't still flat. Just let it find a natural place. And then look back for that elbow. Stay connected down the legs. Drop the tailbone. Okay, and then look forward. We'll take both arms forward. Now let's leave here by relaxing the arms. Put the hands down, lift the back leg. Before we step up, just rock a little bit with that back knee straight. And then when you're ready to step up, from the inside, lift the hips as you step the leg forward. Have a breath or two with both legs straight. We're going to let the head hang for a moment here. And then when we're ready, let's step the other leg back and we'll drop the knee down. Really have to make sure we've got the back knee comfortable. Want to always be prepared to give it a little more padding. The back knee below the hip, and on the front leg, ankle below the knee. Add a little weight to the front foot and have a feeling of pulling the heel back toward the hip. So first we just find our balance, then we check our core body, drop the tailbone, lengthen up the neck. And when you're ready, sweep the arms out and up by the ears. Just push up in the palms with the arms rotated, lifting the shoulders, dropping the hips, reaching up along the neck. And then the front arm goes with the front leg. Take it forward, out at shoulder height, push out through both palms. Keep lifting through the spine, dropping in our tailbone. So you can keep the shoulders alive and reaching as we do this work. Shoulders, shoulder blades, arms. And now that upper arm, bring it down at shoulder height. And so we're going to push forward for a moment with both palms and still check the back body, still reaching up. And then let's turn a bit to the side, about 45 degrees. And then turn forward again. And then just have both palms upward. And now the back leg, send that elbow back. Push back with that elbow, reach forward with the front fingers, and then turn and look toward that back elbow. And then let's turn forward. We'll bring both arms forward, out in front, and then release the hands, reach down, touch the ground, lift the back knee, just a couple of gentle rocks, and then lift the hips up as you bring the back leg forward. Let the knees soften and bend. Now from here, get the fists onto the mat, and then step one leg back, then the other. So we'll come into tabletop. And just adjust the hands so the weight on the wrists is where it's okay for you. Explore keeping the toes tucked under, push the ribs up, move the tailbone down toward the ground, press the vertebra upward. So we can still reach up through the
vertebra on the neck, even though the chin's a little tucked here. And now we're going to change the shape of the back. Let's start with the tailbone. Move the tailbone back. Imagine pointing the tailbone at the heels. And keep sending it back, and we can feel the hips change. Keep pressing up through the shoulders. Let the hips change, come into the lumbar. And keep working up the back as we change the shape. We're going to end up with the face faced forward, the neck long. And now let's reverse again. We're going to start with the tailbone again. Starting moving the tailbone, tipping it in, bringing it underneath. As the movement traveled through the hips. And then coming up the back body. And as we work further up the back, the neck's going to naturally switch, and we'll end up with the chin tucked and our gaze downward. Maybe look toward our knees. And then when you're ready, just release the back body. Now, initially, the body's going to sink down a little bit when we release. And then we're going to lift up again through the shoulders. Now get the hands maybe just a little closer than shoulder width. And then we're going to make a circle that goes down into the wrists. So move the shoulders out to one side, forward, over to the other side and back a bit. And not too much weight, nice and smooth. So that upper body circling around the wrists. And when you're at a place to change direction, let's switch to traveling the other direction. Okay, and let's come, when we're ready, back into center. And when we're in center, sometimes we just want to, for ourselves, adjust the wrists. So just be sensitive to how they're feeling. And little changes in position can just keep them fresh. When we're ready to move, we're going to bring the shoulders up as high as we can. Really reach up through the upper back and then move forward a few inches and then let the chest sink down and then move back a few inches and lift up again. So it's kind of like a bicycle wheel. We're having this shoulder circle. So our initial direction is up and forward, down and backward. Letting our neck respond. And when we're ready, let's switch that direction. Okay, and then last time we'll come neutral. And then once we're neutral, let's change up the hands. Let's come onto fists and bring them in toward the center line. So kind of halfway, maybe between center line and shoulder, and we're going to adjust their position once we start to move. Now, let's start by taking one elbow off the ground and poke the elbow up toward the ceiling and carefully just move the eyes to look for that elbow. Head turns a bit here. And then we'll take that hand down, looking down, and then we'll take up the other elbow. Press the elbow up. Turn toward that side, looking toward the elbow. And then back down.
And we'll just smoothly go side to side. Okay, so our last set. So once we've done that second side, we get the hands down on the mat. Let's move our knees apart, flatten the feet, drop the hips down, and sink down into child's pose. Okay, let's lift up and we'll get the knees back under the hips. Now let's come onto our forearms. So we're going to interlace our fingers, have the weight on the forearms, tuck the toes under, have the knees come off the ground, walk the feet back a bit, and then allow the hips to come down. As you let the hips come down a bit, also push up through the shoulder blades. Now feel inside the body. Feel inside for a straight line between heels, hips, and shoulder blades. And lengthen on the neck so the eyes are looking down, looking back a bit. And then push the heels forward and then pull the heels back. So we're going to rock gently, coming out of the ankles. Keep lifted in the shoulders, shoulder blades, and don't let the hips sag. Keep the tailbone a little tucked here. Okay, and now let's lower the knees again. And we'll drop ourselves back into child's pose for a couple of breaths. Just releasing down. Okay, let's lift the hips. Now we'll stay on the forearm. So again, we're going to interlace the fingers. We'll tuck the toes under and lift the knees. Now lift the hips up. So rather than walk the feet back, we're going to lift our hips higher into the air. And when we do this, we need to lift the shoulders up. And we want to make sure the neck feels long and comfortable. We'll take the hips up, we'll push them back. And then when we're ready, just gliding forward. So bring the head forward, bring the face over the fingers, and then press back, moving the hips up and back. Let the gaze look back toward the feet. Gliding forward again, coming back. Now, this can be a lot of work in the shoulders and elbows. So be prepared to put the knees back down. Take a pause. Also be sensitive to the elbows, sometimes sliding wider.
And then let's lower our knees back on the mat. We'll move them wide. We're going to sink our way back into child's pose and let the forehead touch the ground and rest the weight through the forehead, either on the mat or sometimes too on the forearms as we wish. Okay, let's lift the hips up again. Now we're going to bring the knees closer, about hips width apart. And then walk the arms forward. So keep the hips above the knees to start. And then take the arms as far forward as you can. Want to keep the hands on the mat for this, but reach out as far forward as you can. Let the chest sink down and then maybe adjust a little bit. So we're going to move the hips just a little bit back from the knees. You need to feel into where this is. And take the hands about shoulder width apart, maybe just shoulder width apart. And now bend the wrists, rotate so the outside edges of the hands press on the mat, and press into the outside edge of the hands. Now the face goes down toward the mat, so we keep the neck long and open. Push on the hands. Now the hips can't really move back, or if they move, it's just a centimeter or two. So you can take the hips that tiny bit extra back, tuck the tailbone, keeping the neck long. Don't drop the head, just keep the ears between the arms. And then take the eyes back toward the knees. So we want to press into the outside edge of the hands, press the hips back, keep the tailbone tipped in, down. Okay, let's release. So shift the weight forward, release the arms, come onto the forearms for a moment. And now we're going to change our position completely. From here, we'll come onto the back body. So we'll have our knees bent, our feet flat. Let the arms rest away from the sides of the body. And just letting the spine release downward. And just feel the shape of the back. Initially, we'll just give ourselves a chance to experience our back as it is. And now press a tiny bit more weight on the soles of the feet. And let's adjust the hips so that we bring our sacrum flat against the mat. And now move the weight up through the sacrum toward the top of the hip. That's going to tuck our tailbone up, and we're going to end up taking the tailbone right off the mat. And now we're going to reverse. So shift the weight down the sacrum, move down toward the top of the tailbone, and have the low back, the lumbar area, arc up away from the mat.
lifting the diaphragm, spreading the low ribs, and lifting the spine. And then again, reversing. So we allow the spine to release and sink down. And then we add work at the hips as we flatten the sacrum. And then we move through that with a little tuck at the tailbone. And gently pressing the back of the waist onto the mat, but keep contact at the top of the hip. And let's reverse our last time. So first relax, and the back will naturally start to shift. And then add some effort to roll toward the top of the tailbone. And then we're going to arc up the lumbar spine all the way up to the arc really is going to travel up to the area of the shoulder blades, but we can really add lift at the diaphragm at the base of the ribs. And then let's soften and release and just let go, let the spine sink. And then draw the knees up, reach hold of the knees, move the knees in toward the chest. We want our legs relaxed, the arms doing the work here. We're going to hold the legs where the sacrum feels flat, lumbar is released. And now bring the knees closer together. We got the knees about hips width apart, and lift the feet up a bit higher, just above the knees, heels just above the knees. Energize down the legs into the feet. Gently press forward through the base of the toes, keeping the toes kind of working toward the head. Okay, now let's release the arms and take the arms vertical, rotate, push up for the ceiling through the palms, and then lengthen the neck. And use the eyes. We're going to look downward with the eyes, looking down through the cheeks, looking down toward the belly, and stay in contact with the belly. Have the belly gently press into the hips, into the low back, as the palms keep pushing upward. And now let's lower the arms back toward the ears, but just halfway. And just push outward through the palms. See if you can let the shoulder blades rest into the mat. Halfway to the ears, just pushing out. And then bring the arms down by the ears. You're going to keep pressing outward through the palms. Keep the neck long. And have the backs of the shoulder blades in contact with the mat. And taking the arms wider now, about halfway out between shoulder height and up by the ears. Keep gently pressing through the palms. Keep releasing the shoulder blades down. Let the back sink into the mat. And now let's bring the arms lower. We'll come below the shoulder height, kind of halfway between shoulders and hips. Bring the hands just a little higher off the mat. Keep the shoulder blades, some part of the shoulder blades touching, pushing out through the arms, through the heel of the palm. And then see if you can take the head just off the ground. Not very high at all. Like think of a finger underneath the head. That's all the amount we want.
And now bring the arms close to the sides of the legs, halfway up between knees and hips. Bring the head maybe 2 fingers off the ground. Okay, bend the elbows, take the hands behind the head and transfer the weight of the head onto the arms. Rest the head down. Just take the hands from behind the head, reach the hands around behind the thighs. And use the hands to help with the load of the legs, and then push the soles of the feet toward the ceiling. Now, both hands take hold of the left leg. And then as you inhale, lower the right leg down toward the mat. And the heel just lightly touches. Bring the leg back up with an exhale. And then both hands hold the right leg. And the inhale lowers the left. Just flowing with our breathing. Just comfortably slow. And keeping the eyes looking downward. And then experiment with the ankles. We're going to gently point the toes outward, away. So ankle is open, is long. Okay, so we'll do our last set. So lowering the left leg is our last side. And then when we've done the left leg, just relax the legs and have the hands hold the knees. Allowing the knees to be comfortably apart. And then just follow the breath into the belly, letting the belly move freely as we breathe. And now, bringing the knees close, let's bring the knees in contact. The hands on the outsides of the knees. Now, use the hands to make a little circle with the legs, keeping them in contact. And then reversing the direction of the circle. And then coming back into the center. Now use the hands to draw the knees toward the ribs. And then relax the hands and let the knees just fall away from the hands. The feet land on the ground. And then take the arms straight out from the sides at shoulder height. Palms are up. So when we're ready to, with the exhale, just drop the knees over to the right, turn the head and look to the left, and turn the left palm down into the mat, and turn a bit further so the shoulder rotates more and lifts off. Want to make sure we have the neck relaxed here. And then for the inhale, come back up to neutral.
And switch sides as we exhale. So looking right, rotate a bit more so that right shoulder lifts and turns. And then switching sides again. And traveling smoothly, we'll go side to side. And let's do our last side. So at some point when the knees go over to the left, that's our last one. And then when we have the knees back up, just bring the arms lower, below shoulder height, away from the sides of the body. Let the knees drop open and find the outside edges of the feet. And for a moment here, find the sacrum. See if we can use the belly and the upper thighs to place the sacrum flat against the mat. And now let's lengthen the legs. So one at a time, scrape down on the outside edge of the foot to extend the leg, then the other. And now allowing the body to rest on the mat. And just resting our attention on our breathing. And we're going to move again in our fingers and our toes. and our ankles and our wrists, all along the arms and down the legs. Reaching out through the arms, stretching down the legs. So we can lengthen the back body here. And then with an exhale, bringing the knees in, holding on the knees and rocking gently. And we're going to travel from here to either side, coming up to sitting. Namaste.